Lately I've realised I have papers and embellishments from some collections that I haven't used because I'm stuck with their motifs, particularly different animals. I want to use them, but I'm not sure what photos they go with when I don't have photos of giraffes, chameleons or exotic birds. Glittergirl, can you help?
Of course I can. Today I'm going to start with the chameleon from Box of Crayons as my random motif, but I'll tell you a little bit as I'm going about something else that's going to be happening all April long to help you out or encourage you to use your more random motifs, but more about that in a minute. So my biggest advice with things that you feel are a bit random when it comes to embellishments, there's a few prongs to this advice. One, I would say, remember that there's absolutely nothing wrong with using something just because you think it's cute or pretty or you like it in any way, whatever adjective describes it. It's whatever works for you. If it catches your eye, there's absolutely no reason not to put it on a page. And you don't have to explain to anyone why you might want to put chameleons on your page because it's what you're making and that's absolutely fine. You don't need to be literal with it unless you want to be. Now, literal, you can do. You might have photos with chameleons, and if you do, then this is the paper for you, and you can buy a few. So you have plenty of ways to scrapbook your pet chameleon, or the chameleon you met at the zoo, or whatever it might be. But beyond that, if you don't have a pet chameleon, you don't have a photo of yourself with a chameleon on your head, and you haven't gone to meet Rapunzel and her pet Pascal the chameleon, then what can we do then? Okay. Well, think about different ways that you can interpret something. So in today's page, I'm going to be going with the rainbow idea, which each of these little chameleons has a rainbow on his back or her back, and that's where everything in this layout is going to start. I've picked out another rainbow paper. This is from Pink Paisley Confetti Wishes. And these two are going to work together. My next tip is if you have something that is really random, then pull it back down to earth with something that is a neutral to you. And what I mean by that is something that's very true to your style, something that you would use all the time, be it color, pattern, a little bit of both. So I've brought in a heart pattern because that's something that I use on far more pages than I don't. So this is also Pink Paisley. It's from Wild Child. And there's a color match here from this tone to that one. That also shows up here. And then I've pulled that color one more time in just a geometric or a stripe. This is also Pink Paisley. Yep, this is Paige Evans for Pink Paisley in Turn the Page. So I have two that kind of are a bit more neutral. There's nothing bizarre there. One that matches the explosion of color, and then one to play with all my chameleons, or insert the random motif of your choice. Now, I've got a photo to go with all of this, and it's a photo that has plenty of color. It's not exactly the same colors that are here in the paper, and that's okay. It's just a photo that has an explosion of color, but also an explosion of happiness. And what I want to focus on is that idea of the rainbow. So I'm going to go ahead and construct my page, and then you'll see the rainbow idea come out to play. Sometimes I find it helps to start with the random motif first, and sometimes I feel like it all works a little easier if I work it in as I go. So this time I'm starting with the rainbow. I want that rainbow to be ever present, but not overwhelming. So I'm using it as a frame, and then I'm going to put my more neutral design on top. And I'm going to ink pretty much everything in gray on this layout because I have a lot of shades of the same color, and all of these different pieces of paper that are basically all kind of an aqua turquoise tone, and they're going to end up next to each other like this. So by adding the gray ink, then that will give me a little bit of contrast just where the two colors don't have anything else dividing them. And then some things to go around the photo. Well, I want something a bit neutral. So I had this scrap of a paper from Paige's Pick Me Up collection. And it's just the A side and the B side of the same paper. Now here's another motif that makes perfect sense to plenty of people. It's not something that I have photos to scrapbook. I don't have sailboat photos to scrapbook, but I love the color and the texture on this paper. So I'm using it as a mat, and you're not even going to notice that they're sailboats, and in fact they're going to be sideways sailboats, so that's okay. Now, the photo's going to go on top of this neutral so that no matter how many colors I throw onto this page, it's got a nice background to just separate it. And the only reason that it's smaller is because that's how much of the paper I had left, and I am not too worried about that little detail. So the motion in this photo is kind of going everywhere, but I feel like this diagonal here, because I've got two children sat that way, and that's kind of the way I'm sitting as well, that this is the most dynamic line in the motion. So I'm going to put it over on the left so that that line is leading to the right. I just feel like this takes the motion off the page, and this one will keep it on the page and just flow naturally. So that's where that's going to go. Now, I want something to go on the other side, and I want to be able to put in some journaling. So we're going to use something from the 6x8 writing pad from Box of Crayons, and it's actually this one right at the very back, which has 4 sections. And it doesn't have a turquoise one. We're going to pick one of the other colors. I think I might go ahead and pick that boldest pink, because that's the one that's at the very bottom of the page. So I feel like that gives me a little bit of a frame to have that pink at the top of the journaling box and the bottom of the page, just to have a little cohesiveness. And that's going to get gray ink as well. That's going to go over here somewhere. Now, on the edge of that paper that I haven't used yet, this is the branding strip. It's just a row of this rainbow of butterflies. Which way up? That way up. I'm going to use that as a little detail down here. I think I'll go ahead and end on the turquoise. That's going to get ink as well. And this is going to line up with the bottom of the heart paper. Just in the middle. I'm going to tuck in some other little things there as well. And now I feel like I'm at a point, ooh, actually, I quite like how this is offset, so I'm going to make this one offset too. And then I need to work in my chameleons. Just hold all the adhesive off with that. So I'm going to put some more back on and just have it offset like that. Yep, I like that a bit better. Okay. So I could have the chameleons in something like this and have a big long strip of them marching across, but I think that's a bit too much. The chameleons are not in the 6x6 pad, so I can't have them in a smaller size, really. I can't have them in a smaller size as an embellishment or as a cut apart, but this particular pattern, I have two options. I have what I'm working with here is the 12x12 individual sheets. It is in the 12x12 project pad with a holographic finish, just a little shimmer over the top. So a little different option there for you. And I think what I want to do is have it be more part of this journaling. So I think this big long strip is just not the right shape. Trying to find a different shape that could work, and I thought about using this sort of scrolled square, but actually what I wanted was something smaller. So I broke out some punches. I looked at circles and I wasn't convinced, and then stumbled upon this idea of a postage stamp. But I think you could use just a normal rectangle and it would still work, but I like this little extra detail, so I am going to just punch a few of these little guys as postage stamps. I think the way the punch works, I need to cut them apart really to get the colors I want. I definitely want this color, of course. I may have cut it too small already. But that's the sort of idea I'm going to go for. I think I need to just play around with where to punch it here to get the best shape. That's better. Yep, so a few of those that are going to be dotted around the page. Postage stamps all punched and inked, so I think I am ready to start sticking all these different elements, figuring out where everything can go. So let's see, do I want this to come over to the edge, or this one maybe actually sit in the middle a little bit, I think. Then I can have a whole row of hearts there down that side. And these little guys can get tucked in to various different spots. Actually, with that punched edge, maybe they're better to come over the top a little bit. What does that one look like underneath? Have a little variety and have some on the top, some underneath. And using them like this then gives me the same way it just gives me a nice easy pattern that I can follow that I would have done with any type of embellishment. So you can pretend that was just my trusty old label punch from a nice neutral piece of paper. It would work exactly the same way. And plenty of other things to tuck under. So this is part of a doily that I used on a page the other day. And I'm going to put it underneath there. I'm going to mix a bit of white and cream on this one. If you haven't heard me say it before, my guideline with mixing white and cream is that if you're going to do it, the way to make it look like it was meant to be that way is more. more. If you have just everything in white with one piece that's cream, then the cream will stand out and look like it doesn't go. If you have everything in cream with one piece that's white, that will have the same effect. If you have 3 different shades of cream and 3 different shades of white, it all looks like you meant for just shades of white and cream. So more works in that instance. So I'm going to bring in this texture as well, which is a vellum or glassine envelope. And let's see, I can put this one under this layer. Really, I don't need him to go on there until there's a few more things underneath, so this can go along there. Still going to be able to see that beautiful texture of the doily underneath. And then the reason I tear those is because then I love the texture from the torn edge. So this torn edge is going to come down here. And just a little bit of it up here as well to keep the purple one company. Actually, That one's underneath, and the vellum can go right on the top without covering up his face. Now I better work in my title before I go any further so that it all makes sense. And I have a few other little pieces that can bring in some color. These are both from cut-aparts in the Pink Paisley Paige Evans Pick Me Up collection, if you can get all those pa-pa-pas. Pink Paisley Paige Evans Pick Me Up. I quite like this one, but I'm not quite sure where it's going to go, although I do quite like it just there. So I'm going to tack it there and let it grow on me and see what happens. Here's how I made the chameleons make sense. Each one has a little rainbow, and I've started everything on this page with this idea in mind: count your rainbows, not your thunderstorms. And so I went with You Are Rainbows for the title and did some journaling all about how they are, these moments like this are the rainbows of life, and that's all it takes. So it's just that little leap to find something that you can make into a title. It might be a pun or it might be a metaphor, and then you can just carry it on into your journaling. And I mean, if I look at this photo and try to go with a title that's a bit more literal, I could do something about, you know, piled up or something, and that just doesn't have the same meaning to me. This gives it a little bit of a special treatment, and I get to use my chameleon. So I enjoyed it every level. Okay, now just a little bit more embellishment now. By the way, all of these are obviously facing the same way on the pattern paper, but in the sticker book, in the sticker folder, and then you've got one that faces the other way. So I'm going to pop him up here, I think, somewhere. It's going to get tucked in. Put him up there. And I've got some washi, this big pink floral washi. It's really wide, and what I'm going to do is actually just use it in that direction. So I'm going to tuck some of that behind there. I'm just going to keep tearing it in that direction and using it as little strips. Put some inside the vellum here, I think. Oops, not that much because that's going to cover up the journaling. Let's see if I can. There we go. That's not covering the journaling. And some this one, maybe in the pocket here as well. And lasso it up here. Might be able to just pop that one behind it. Okay. So that brings that all together a little bit. And then a few other little things, like I don't have an actual little rainbow on the page yet, and I would like that. I'd like to have a rainbow, so I'm going to use this sticker from the square sheet, which does say rainbow and possibility, so that you can put the word of in the middle if you like, but you can just use it one bit at a time. And that brings the cream that I have from these up here. And the word strips, I've got rainbow of possibilities on one of those. I can bring that down here, further down here, quite that far over. No, I think I liked it overlapping this a little bit better. There. Pink one there, any of the rest. I've got yes up here, and I've got one here that says yep, yes, yeah. Just continuing that turquoise line there. That's all from those stickers. And then to bring in some things with different textures. So I've got enamel dots, of course. Just wondering about, instead of putting, you know, one triangle here and one triangle here and one triangle there and one triangle there, because then I've also got this bit up here, wondering about having just a little kind of vertical zigzag. I quite often do a horizontal zigzag. But I'm looking at these hearts and just thinking I could bring it down the page that way. Maybe bring one right up to the top as well. And then could also bring in the pink. I think I might do the pink in the smaller sizes and not use the great big ones. A different treatment with the enamel dots, and I think some mist will help make it settle in and feel a little bit more purposeful. So I'm going to bring in some gray mist there. I do have a tiny bit of gold foil here, but I've got holographic there and this glitter, so I'm going to bring the neutral gray in on top of all that rainbow. The journaling is in gray as well. Okay. I have these little patterned enamel dots out as well. That's going to be nicer up there. That says the good life. And here's a little one that says love. I only have two pink ones, so I can't make a big triangle. That blue is a little bit too blue, not enough turquoise for this, so I think that's all I can use from there. And perhaps a puffy sticker or two. Now these are filled with random, but they have rainbows, they have chameleons, they have much happiness. So, bring them in. Wondering, do I need to put that rainbow on top of something flat? No, I think that's fine where it is. Over here. A little turquoise heart to match the turquoise chameleon in this little grouping here. A yellow butterfly on this one, I think, to match this little yellow sticker. So that's 3 of those. a tiny chameleon to that tag. It's quite tempting. But I think in this case I'm going to leave that. I do want to have something to pull this together with the others, so I think what I'm going to do is try to add a little bit of the vellum. I like that edge better. Yep. And I could put an enamel dot on the center of that. And maybe a little bit of the washi will help. And then that's probably enough to make it feel like it belongs with everything else. It needs to go way over to the left though. Go right off the top of the page. Vellum's going to go back down on the top of that. There we go. That feels like a much better little tiny piece to bring it all back in with this. And I could repeat the butterflies up there, but I think this works well to have this just repeat, or just once and no repeat, and this is just once and no repeat, and gives a little bit of variety, as well as having all the things that do repeat, so that each bit is a little bit unique, but still goes with everything else. So, yep, random chameleons tied right into something that doesn't involve chameleons at all, just by thinking about the title, about the sentiment, and the mood that I wanted the story to convey. Now, I told you that there's something going on to help you or encourage you, either way, to use your quote-unquote random motifs. The scrapbooking is my superpower hashtag is back on with a monthly challenge starting on the 1st of April. There's a little calendar that has a different random motif for each day of the month, and I will be posting my projects using all those random motifs on both Instagram and Facebook. You'll probably see some of them turn up here in videos throughout the month as well, but anyone can join in. You can join just at home, or if you do want to join in and share, you can find more details on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll pop the links down below in the description. I think that covers it pretty much, but if you do have some random things in your collection of stash that you really wish were on your pages and you're just not quite sure where to take them, I hope to be spreading some ideas like this throughout the month of April. Please go ahead and join in, subscribe here if you want to see more videos, and thank you very, very much for watching. See you soon.